Last year I bought an amazing AK-47 style rifle, the Zastava M90, or do you say Zastava? Since the Serbs call it Zastava, I'm going to pronounce it that way in this video, so you'll be okay. The M90 is a Serbian version that seems to be better built with better parts than most other AK-type rifles. It was developed in Yugoslavia in 1970 after 2 Russian AK-47s were brought to the country by some defecting Albanian soldiers. The engineers at Zastava copied most of the design of the Russian AKs, but they improved on some things along the way. And it's interesting to know that the Zastava factory, which was a private company, built their new rifle without the help of the Yugoslavian government or the military. And while we're on the topic, back when I made my M90 video, I called it a Yugoslavian pattern rifle a few times in the video. Well, several busloads of Serbs who saw the video became very angry. They all wrote to inform me that there was no longer a Yugoslavia, and that it was now called Serbia and Croatia. Well, even though I clearly said this in a video, I even spelled it out in Serbian Cyrillic letters in the intro. But some people wake up looking for something to be offended about. We in the US call these type of rifles Yugo pattern rifles to differentiate them from Russian pattern rifles when we're buying parts for them. You see, they're very close to Russian rifles, but certain parts are not compatible. See, I was around when Yugoslavia was broken into 2 countries. Shortly before that happened, I even owned a sporty compact car called the Yugo. And mine was painted in a flashy beige that guaranteed 0 glances from hot chicks. So yeah, I'm familiar with the history of Yugoslavia and Serbia, so y'all can unwad your Balkan panties. So we've established that Zastava makes a badass Yugo pattern version of an AK-47. Well, I also wanted one of these shorty AKs since this ass clown started showing up on the news with one in his cave. These shorty AKs are often referred to as Krinkov rifles, named by the Mujahideen in Afghanistan for these shortened AK-47 rifles that were developed for Russian helicopter and tank crews around 1979. Remember, the Soviets invaded Afghanistan in December of '79, so this little rifle went straight from the drawing board out to the desert. And, contrary to popular myth, the Krinkov wasn't built for special operations. They were made for the crews of larger weapons, sort of like how the .30 carbine was developed as a secondary or personal defense rifle in World War II, not as a primary fighting rifle. Soviet Special Forces didn't even like the Krinkov because of its shorter range. One of the reasons that you see so many of them coming from Afghanistan during our war on terror is that, in theory, to get one, you had to take down a helicopter or an armored unit. So they're a little bit of a status symbol. But just so I don't also piss off the Russians and the AK nerds here in the US, this rifle isn't actually a Krinkov. The true Krinkov, or Krink rifle, is the AK-74U, which is the same rifle that this dickhead kept with him in his underground goat brothel. The original AK-74U, or Krinkov, had a folding stock, a wood or Bakelite handguard, and a very distinct little muzzle device that looked like a little trumpet. You can imagine the muzzle blast that comes from a rifle round being fired from a 10-inch barrel. So this little device was added to the muzzle, and it was called a muzzle booster. The booster isn't there just to look silly. It actually helps provide enough gas to keep the action cycling reliably out of this short barrel. A cool secondary feature was that it also controlled a lot of the flash and the concussion. And here's another myth busted. The title Krinkov that you hear this rifle being called so often wasn't named after any dude named Krinkov. That isn't even a Russian surname, and nowhere was there a dude with that name designing guns. It was just a slang term that was given to the gun by Afghani fighters who encountered it in the early 80s. Sorry to suck a little magic out of your day. Enough about the Russian version of this rifle. I don't even own one. We are here to discuss the Serbian Zastava M92, a better built copy of the Krink, made with better materials and manufacturing processes. Zastava developed the M92 in, you guessed it, 1992, after the success of their M85, chambered in 5.56. The M92 is chambered in 7.62x39, the original caliber that these rifles were made for. And I'm kind of a purist. Even though there are multiple calibers of these short little AKs out there, I wanted mine in 7.62x39. This also comes in handy when I need to share magazines between my M70 and even this CMMG BR47. I was curious to see just how much velocity was lost using a short-barreled AK. Some guns lose all their ass when we cut their barrels down, but I'd heard the 7.62x39 retained most of its power from short barrels, which is a reason the 300 Blackett is so popular from short-barreled rifles these days. Okay, we're going to run this velocity test with the same Bellum ammunition. I'm just going to take this mag out, cycle it through the other guns, the ones that'll take it, and let's see what we can do. First, 10.5-inch short configuration and straight out of the box. $21.09, $20.95, error. So I think it was very first round, skipped right over the top of my chronograph. I did not allow for the height over bore, and we got a strike on the top of the chronograph, which is not uncommon. Boy, that thing just parted its hair though, and went right through the taller part. Problem is now I'm getting nothing but error messages, constant error messages. So I think it's time we put the old Caldwell ballistic precision to rest. All right, let's go ahead and kill this thing for good. There it is. Right through the middle of the screen. Now that's what I call an error. Bullet traveled through, and there's the exit. So you guys are my sugar daddies. You guys take care of OG over on Patreon, and I don't even have to meet you at a truck stop or do anything weird, other than stand out here in the middle of the woods and video myself. But it's time to get a new chronograph anyway. These old-timey ones are the size of a loaf of bread. The newer ones are about the size of a little pack of cigarettes. OG hasn't been buying one because they're really damn expensive.
Yeah, let's go.
So we're going to be using this Bellum, which is Serbian ammunition, that's perfect for a Serbian rifle. But one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to pit this little 10-inch barrel of the M92 against the full-length AK-47. This is the Zastava M70, the big brother. We have my favorite 7.62-39 rifle, which is the CMMG BR47. And then, of course, we have a Russian 1953 SKS. Let's go ahead and pit all of these barrels with the same ammunition, see what kind of velocity spread we get. Shot number one, 2,137.5 feet per second. Shot two, 2136. Shot number three, 2029 for an average of 2,100.9 feet per second out of the short little 10-inch barrel Zastava M92. Okay, it's time to run the M70. This is the Zastava M70, the big brother of the M92. Shot number one, 2350. Shot number two, 2351. Shot number three, 2331 for an average of 2344. If you haven't seen the video I've done on this BR47, go check it out. I'll put a little link right up here, a little card. They sent me this thing last summer, and god dang it, this thing is a fun rifle to shoot. I have become a big fan of all of these BR style guns from CMMG. 3 rounds out of the BR47. Shot number one, 2401. Shot number two, 2342. Shot number three, 2373 for an average of 2372. Okay, just for shits and giggles, we're going to give the Russian SKS 3 rounds of the same Bellum ammunition, 123 grain, and see how it records here on the chronograph. Shot number one, 2383. Shot number two, 2412. And shot number 3, 23.45 for an average of 23.80. So a little bit faster out of this longer barrel. 2 more. Viewer of the show, Chuck, has dropped by. He lives nearby the danger compound. We met up yesterday doing a little wood chipping project down at the range that we both use. He has offered to loan me his Anderson Manufacturing 10.5-inch barrel 300 blackout. We've got 124 grain rounds in here, 3 of them. We're going to give them a try on the same Garmin chronograph and see how they go. This is about the closest one can get in an AR platform to that M92. So let's give it a try. Shot number 1, 1980.4. I think I was in 3rd grade. Shot number 2, 2016.5. Boy, this thing feels good though. Woo! I don't yet own a 300 blackout, folks. If you think I should own a 300 blackout, comment down below because it's not going to take much to push me over the edge. Shot number 3, 1975.8 for an average of 1990.9. So we're losing a little bit of velocity, but all those velocities with a 30 caliber projectile are pretty badass. So if you like the AR-15 platform and absolutely can't stand an AK, this is definitely a way to go. An AR pistol firing 300 blackout. I mentioned earlier that the muzzle device controls blast and concussion, and it does a pretty damn good job. But mostly for the aesthetics, I wanted to replace it with one of these 4-piece Bulgarian flash cans. Now I bought this can from CNC Warrior online, and I installed it in just seconds out there in the field with no tools. It really helps push all that concussion forward and away from the shooter. So not only does it look pretty badass, but it actually does something. I waited around until near dark so I could take the 4 7.62x39 rifles that I had with me and shoot them on camera to see what kind of flash they produce. Now, does this matter in the real world? Not much, but I've always been curious, and so it was time to test it out on camera. Oh no, there's some in there. Alright, saw a little blast there. Oh yeah, there's some muzzle blast there. The Serbs improved the Krinkov-Style rifle by adding a top rail to the dust cover. And that allows us to mount optics directly to the rail instead of some side rail mounting system like I have on my M70. And this keeps the optic in the right place, right in the center, 12 o'clock, and it helps a lot when you're sighting it in. I picked up this primary arms red dot that comes with a built-in Picatinny rail mounts, and it fit perfectly, while at the same time it was just the right height for this type of stock or the brace. The Zastava M92 comes from the factory with red wooden grips and 4-end pieces. And while they look pretty nice, they're pretty dang cool, I definitely think a gun made for serious social work should have a place to mount a light. So I ordered this replacement top rail from Ultimac right here in Idaho. I swapped it out in seconds right there on the tailgate of my truck, again with I think only one tool. And then I added this Magpul light mount and a Streamlight weapon light. I had a pretty well outfitted rifle that really had everything needed on a social rifle. The M92 ships with one Magpul 29+1 round magazine, and I had several more of these on hand from my M70, but I also tried some other aftermarket magazines that I picked up from US Palm, and I had some Bulgarian polymer mags, and even some of those cheap Korean KCI magazines that, man, I always regret owning. Overall, I think the M92 just looks the best with these 20 round Magpul magazines. Now, they function properly, and they were easy to load, and they helped keep this little rifle from getting too big or heavy or off balance. Overall, the Magpul magazines might not be for the purist or the collector, but they are absolutely the most reliable, the easiest to load, and the easiest to shoot. You'll also notice that I swapped out the Serbian red wood pistol grip for one of these Yugo-style grips. The original was a little too slick, and this Yugo-style grip is maybe a little too narrow, but it works great, and maybe it too will get swapped out to a Magpul pistol grip. I shot this little bastard in its original configuration and again after it was all pimped out. Now, while it was a great gun right out of the box, the pimped out gun just seemed to run better. It was all the cool stuff. The Bulgarian blast can was more than just a nice looking piece. It really sent all that boom forward where the shooter doesn't even feel it. So of all the stuff on here, to me, a light is mandatory, and this blast can is really, really helpful. The other stuff, mostly aesthetic. The recoil on the M92 is light. It's more than an AR-15, but it's far from most .30 caliber rifles I've shot. It was very comfortable to shoot, and everyone who put rounds through it really loved the feel. Again, it's operating off of a big, heavy recoil spring that just soaks up most of that kick. In my humble opinion, the M92 with a light and a sling attached would make one hell of a truck gun. It's heavier than any of my AR pistols. All pimped out, it comes in at 7.8 pounds without a magazine. So it wouldn't be my first choice in a backpack gun, but since I'm not going to be scaling the Khyber Pass in flip-flops anytime soon, I think this gun will be absolutely cool if carried in a vehicle. The side folding stock, or brace in this case, is really nice. All folded up, the gun has an overall length of just 22¼ inches. And yeah, it can be fired this way as long as you don't like accuracy. With the stock extended, it comes in at a total overall length of about 30¾ inches. So it's still a short, compact little fighting tool for close-in social work. But oh gee, how does it do at distances longer than in my mom's kitchen? Well, I'm glad you asked. The M92 comes with a pretty decent set of built-in sights. This little notch is in the rear, and if you don't have a little notch in your rear, consult your doctor and ask him if Ogizium is right for you. And the front sight is a familiar Russian-style post that's protected by these little wings. So the factory sights will serve you well and get you on target right out of the box. But as I get older, I sure do like a rugged red dot on my pistols and rifles. This Primary Arms SLX MD20 snapped right onto the rail that comes with the M92. There was no need for any risers or any goofy side-style mounts or any other piece of attachment gear that seems like an afterthought. So while the factory sights will get you on target and are perfectly serviceable, using the red dot was much easier to use for any kind of distance work. Now, it took me a few rounds to get the Primary Arms dot precisely dialed in, but once I did, I was able to consistently hit a Vitals-sized challenge steel target at 100 yards. Holy shit, I think we hit it. That one we hit because the steel target just fell over. And this tells me that I can make decent hits at double that distance on a regular man-sized target. I'm honestly not looking for 500-yard man-sized target hits from this little rifle. When we have something compact and portable like this, we are choosing to give up a little long-range accuracy. If you think your truck gun is going to be called upon to whack Iranian sleeper cells at 500 yards, you might want to devise a way to carry a full-size rifle and get some training. Lots of training. Remember, the entire reason the little Krinkov wasn't all that popular with Soviet troops and even their Spetsnaz special forces was that it wasn't able to reliably hit those beturbaned bad guys at 500 meters, the original parameters that were set forth when this gun was being developed. But if I were a helicopter pilot in Afghanistan, well, first I'd be asking myself, how did you learn to fly a helicopter and what the hell are you doing in Afghanistan? But after that, I'd ask myself if this was enough gun for, let's say, a downed pilot. And I think the answer is a definitive da. If you guys need some sweet danger show swag that'll help you shoot better, drive faster, and satisfy your spouse like never before, check out the link below to Southern Gals Crafts, the exclusive maker of OG's Danger Show t-shirts, hoodies, cups, tumblers, and all the other cool stuff that you didn't really know you needed. Help support a small mom-and-pop shop in Alabama while also showing the world that you have poor taste in YouTube channels. The Zastava M92 handles nicely, and despite being heavy, it transitioned from target to target rather quickly. I'm pretty sure that it's the bulky 7.8 pounds that helps this thing stay on target, and it definitely helps manage recoil. If, like me, you've got all the ARs you need for a while, and even your AR pistol collection is nicely flushed out, you might want to try something like this Zastava M92. Those of us that grew up with video games will love the look of the thing. And it's just nice to get something different than an AR, but it still fits well into the badass category. And because none of you asked, this little beast ran me about $1,200. But when you factor in the included top rail and sights, the Picatinny rails that come at the rear of the receiver so that it can accept a folding stock, and the overall quality of the parts and the manufacturing in this thing, I personally think you're getting a better rifle than those Dracos or the Polish Radom pistols that are everywhere these days. Hey, I want to thank you guys for stopping by and walking around this Zastava M92 with me. I think it's a badass little rifle. If you don't yet have one, definitely put it on your list of things to get. You know your birthday's coming up anyway, right? Okay, that's about it for me today. I hope you enjoyed this video of the Zastava M92, as well as the other 7.62 rifles that we tested out here today. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up down below. If you didn't like it, who asked you? Keep your mouth shut. If you're not already a subscriber to OG's Danger Show, I would appreciate you hitting the subscribe button down below. Also, tap the bell so that you'll get notified when I put out other crap on this channel. So as always, you guys stay safe out there. Stay armed whenever and wherever you can. And until next video, OG out.